So reassuring. All right, Lydia, what is your topic?
Musculoskeletal pain and injury patients should try physical therapy before surgery. You can just write PT versus surgery if you want to.
Thank you. Very convenient. Okay, yes, no, yes. Okay, audience, are you ready? Yep. Lydia, are you ready?
Yep.
And proceed.
I would like to tell you guys all a story about John. When John was young, he loved to do activities such as biking, running, and skiing. He wasn't the most competitive individual by any means, but he found it important to live a healthy lifestyle. However, as John got older, he started to notice that these once beloved activities and lifestyle that he had started to cause him more pain and soreness than enjoyment. So he brought it up to his healthcare professionals, which they provided him with numerous options to help treat his pain, including physical therapy and surgery. Now, John mistakenly thought that surgery was his only valid option. However, he was so mistaken given that physical therapy does just as good a job, if not better, at treating pain. Now, John may not be a real person, but he does represent millions of Americans who find themselves in very similar situations. So many Americans find themselves wind up in musculoskeletal pain and injuries and just assume that surgery is their only way out. However, multiple studies, including a 2013 study conducted by medical doctor Jeffrey M. Katz in the New England Journal of Medicine, found that physical therapy does a better job of managing pain and can even help you avoid surgery. Musculoskeletal pain and injury patients should try physical therapy before surgery for so many reasons, but mainly these three. Physical therapy helps avoid the unnecessary cost of surgery. And along with that, physical therapy helps avoid the unnecessary risks that come with surgery. And third, physical therapy promotes injury prevention and a healthier lifestyle. Now, the average cost of between physical therapy and surgery alone could make the average American lean towards physical therapy. And I'll show you what I mean by that. In an experimental study conducted by Doctor of Physical Therapy Troy Beige and the Alliance for Physical Therapy Quality and Innovation in 2019, 472,000 people were diagnosed with severe back pain and were given the choice between surgery or physical therapy, and the study compared the cost. The average cost of surgery was found to be $16,195 right up front. Meanwhile, the physical therapy patients were only charged a little over $3,000. This means that in this case, physical therapy was 75% lower in cost, and that's just initial cost. But what a lot of people forget is that surgery opens a door to just a rabbit hole of cost after cost after cost a year following surgery. In the same 2019 study, it was found that surgical patients spent an average of over $36,000 for treatment a year following their operation. The physical therapy patients, however, spent a little over $10K a year following their initial diagnosis. All of that is just looking at the cost of money, but what a lot of patients have to take into consideration is the cost of time too that is wasted. The APTA also noticed that the surgical recovery time landed anywhere between 6 months to a year and a half for the surgical patients, whereas the physical therapy patients remarkably made full recoveries in under 6 months. And now, those are all just the unnecessary costs of surgery. But you also really need to look at the unnecessary risks that just naturally coexist with surgery. The moment you get put under for surgery, you are making your body vulnerable to multiple risks, including complications from anesthesia, blood clotting, infections, nerve damage, and allergic reactions, just to name a few. Now, according to the online article published by medical doctor Mark A. Healy back in 2002, these risks do only happen in 2% of musculoskeletal surgical cases. However, given the fact that they have happened in 0% of physical therapy cases, they get obvious just how much physical therapy helps avoid those unnecessary risks. And when talking about risk of surgery, it's impossible to leave out the conversation of opioids. Opioids are a pain medication prescribed to patients by physicians to help manage pain. However, their reputation has become very stained in recent years. According to OSR Physical Therapy's business research website, last updated in 2018, 30% of opioid users misuse them and 12% become highly addicted. And between 4 and 6% of patients prescribed to opioids begin using heroin. And it doesn't end there. In 2019, the Center of Disease Control, also known as the CDC, declared that America was in an opioid epidemic. This is because the number of drug overdose deaths increased by 5% in just 1 year. And it has quadrupled since 1999. The following statistics can all be found on the CDC's website under opioid date resources, last updated in 2019. Every day, 91 Americans die from an overdose caused by pain medication prescribed by doctors. More than 60% of drug overdose deaths are caused by pain medication. In 2019, 70,632 people died from an opioid overdose, and 10.1 million people misused opioids in 2019. Physical therapy is the proven alternative to using opioids because it solves the problem where opioids just mask the symptoms. You cannot rely on opioids to solve the problem as physical therapy does. Physical therapy not only can combat the opioid crisis that is happening in America, but it also opens the door to promoting injury prevention and a healthier lifestyle. I want to tell you guys what a healthy lifestyle looks like in the eyes of a healthcare professional. A healthy lifestyle is a lifestyle where you can move and use your body the way you were intended to do without depending on pain medication. According to the blog published to Joint Ventures Online Health Journal in 2019, written by Dr. of Physical Therapy Jamie T. Martesolo, physical therapy maximizes your ability to move pain-free. And this is because physical therapists are considered to be movement experts. They don't only locate where your problem is occurring, but they work on solving the problem and preventing it from happening again, so you can use your body the way it was meant to. So with all that being said, include looking at the costs that you can avoid from surgery, the risks that you can avoid from surgery, and opening the door to an education you can use for free after your recovery. Musculoskeletal patients should choose physical therapy before surgery.
6:04 was the time.
That's what I got to.
601.1.
Ooh, 0.61 versus 0.69.
Yeah.
So close.
I know.
You want me to press stop on anything?
Oh, for him.
That's okay.
How many sources did y'all get?
I think that's fine. I mean, you used a couple times, right?
7. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I had 8.
Wait.
I checked it.
Yeah, I had 8 too.
We turn in our note cards to you too, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, see what I did
What?
there?
I thought you were saying I stood with my leg up.
Nope.
It's like, what?
Extending the floor.
Here you go. Gonna do that little rough patch, I can consider my size. But for the most part, that was my best time doing it. Yeah. that would be tough. Yeah. I think they're doing that kind of thing. I was making fun of one of your dogs.
Hey, they feel for instance on petting. What do you want?
Oh, maybe.
So- Just you could feel free to look over that before you leave. I'm gonna need your note cards and all 3 of the evaluations. You put them in this red folder next to your full sentence outline.
I just did like 5-paragraph style because it had like the introduction, body.
That topical.
That was my first time ever going first in a speech class.
Your wife never thought you would.
Well,
What'd you say?
that was my first time ever going first, I think.
It's not bad.
Okay, my thesis statement on here is not the same as what you stated, but I think
Mine
it's
is
some
also
Summarized, yeah, yeah.
I tried to write down the school skeleton.
Mm.
This is not very time efficient. Must go.
Must go.
Embarrassing.
No, I was embarrassed last semester. Oh God, what was the word? Oh, hiccups. Everybody was writing, oh, slight hiccup when you did this, or you had little hiccups here. Just trying to say little things in the speech that were screwed up. But everybody, not connected, they weren't talking to each other or anything like that, but everybody that was writing hiccups was spelling it HICKUPS. Like, like, like rednecks. So we had a learning moment the following day where I wrote it out on the floor. Hiccups. Takedowns. All right, we'll give Jerson a moment to. Sorry.
What did I just skip on too? Someone's breakfast.
Somebody's breakfast.
Yeah. Just a big one for me, my foot.
Jerson a moment. Set up here. Gonna get ready.
To make sure. Variation is on future interest.
All right, Jerson, what is your topic?
My topic is that humans need to intervene with the wild horse populations of the United States.
Good. Audience, are you ready? Jerson, are you ready?
Yep.
And proceed.
proceed.
When thinking of the wild horses of the United States, you may think of strength, beauty, and the grit of the Wild West. However, they're posing an issue. The unnatural exposure of the wild horses to the United States and the rapid population growth has caused them to harm themselves as well as the balanced ecosystem they depend on. Humans must intervene with wild horse populations through population management tactics in order to protect the horses themselves as well as the balanced ecosystem which they depend on. This will be done through roundups, adoption, fertility control, and greater knowledge of the issue itself. So what are wild horses? Wild horses are actually feral and invasive species. According to the director of the Science and Conservation Center at Zoo Montana, J.F. Kirkpatrick, 2008, equus migrated off of North America over the Beringia land bridge 2 to 3 million years ago, where they populated parts of Eurasia. The members of the genus Equus that didn't migrate went extinct to an ice age. So that means that the wild horses that we know today are actually a completely different species than the ones that used to be in the United States. These were reintroduced by the Spanish in 1519. They would then escape from their captors or roam freely and eventually create their own populations. Now, just because they are invasive doesn't mean that they don't hold cultural relevance. Heading the Wild Free Roaming Horse and Burro Act of 1971, revised last in 2005, wild free roaming horses and burros are living symbols of the historic and pioneer spirit of the West. This is how they were able to bypass the status of livestock and graduate to that of man's best friend alongside dogs and cats. So now that we know what wild horses are, what is the issue with them? Well, they're affecting the sustainability of the rangelands they live on. They overgraze natural wild plant life, which can lead to invasive species taking over. They provide unnatural competition to the animals that live there by using their resources as well as destroying their habitats. And they have displayed heavy use of minimal amounts of water supply in very arid regions, have little to no natural predation. According to an article written on November 23rd, 2021 by the Wildlife Society writer, Laura Vise, there are currently an estimated 86,000 equine living on 27 million acres of Bureau of Land Management land. This may seem like a lot, but it isn't, considering that the sustainable amount for this area is 26,785 horses. So they are growing at exponentially dangerous rates. And the American Farm Bureau Federation of 2022 states that herds typically grow 18 to 20% annually, meaning horse populations can double in a mere 4 to 5 years, unless human intervention is put into factor. So who is paying for this? Well, it's actually the American taxpayer. After horses are deemed unfit to live on the rangeland which they roam, they are brought into holding facilities. As reported in a July 29, 2021 cost overview prepared by the Congressional Research Services, as of June 2021, there are an estimated 50,030 equine and off-range holding facilities, accounting for $57 million in costs. So now that we know what this giant issue is, well, how are we going to solve it? What is the solution? Well, first, there needs to be greater exposure of the issue, and we need to get rid of the stigma, especially of roundups. Roundups are very necessary in many senses. And in an October 2016 article on horse population reporting, the United States Geological Service describes roundup tactics as a way of regulating appropriate management levels for a given herd management area. So that means that after horses are brought off of the rangelands, they're held in these holding facilities where they actually receive help. Horses that would have died from starvation or thirst in the rangelands now have to not worry about their needs, and they're also giving health care. So that means that their sicknesses are being treated and they're being prevented from diseases. Also, on top of that, after they are rounded up, they have the possibility of adoption. As written in the previously cited Wild Free Roaming Horse and Burro Act of 1971, adoption is only allowed by qualified individuals approved by the Bureau of Land Management. They are only able to adopt 4 animals per year, which diminishes the risk of the horses being sent to slaughter. According to the previously mentioned Congressional Research Service report, the Bureau of Land Management is also providing a $1,000 adoption incentive, which is minuscule when compared to the possible $24,000 that could cost to house a horse in a holding facility over the duration of its life. So now that we know how to deal with the horses that we currently have issues with, how do we deal with the populations that are growing and that are going to cause issues in the future? Well, the answer to that is growth fertility treatment, specifically a drug called porcine zona pellucida, aka PCP. As stated by the American Wild Horse Campaign 2020, PCP provides an immunological response that prevents fertilization at a 95 to 97% success rate. The drug does not affect hormonal behavior and has been seen to be non-generational. In comparison to alternatives, it's cost-effective with a single dose costing only $30. This lasts 10 months, requiring annual booster shots for around 4 years before the mare self-boosting inhibitor. On top of that, it is also very invasive in comparison to alternative methods, as it is able to be dosed through darting teams. In the September 12, 2016 National Geographic interview, Ben Masters, member of the Bureau of Land Management, Wild Horse Control Advisory Board, states that, in a way, wild horses are being loved to death because people focus on their beauty, but not on the health of the rangelands which they depend on. In conclusion, humans must intervene with wild horse populations through population management tactics in order to protect them as well as maintain and balance the ecosystem which they depend on. The goal is to utilize PZP as well as the other tactics which I covered, such as roundups, adoption, and greater knowledge of the subject. We want to manage wild horses, not abolish them.
I got that time. Oh, only so close.
100th away. 6:03 was the time.
I think I'm pretty good at this timing gig.
It's already better than Coulter. Hey-o.
Don't let him know.